Sir, I've read you what your department promised, and it is inadequate. And I realize that contempt is not a big deal to our Attorney General, but it is important that we have proper oversight. So,
you don't want to go there, okay?
I don't want to go there?
No.
Wow. Well, by his professional conduct, Holder doesn't really seem to be taking it too seriously. Look, Republicans seem to be in a really good position to take the Senate in the upcoming midterms. I think we all know that. But did you know that the Constitution allows for all officers of the government to be removed by impeachment? Here it is, Article 2, Section 4. The President, Vice President, and there it is, all civil officers of the United States shall be removed from office on impeachment for and conviction of treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. Come November, conservatives can make this real serious for Holder. Joining me now are Jordan Sekulow, the Executive Director of the American Center for Law and Justice, and Chris O'Person, a litigation attorney based in Washington, D.C. He's also a former special assistant and associate counsel to President George W. Bush. All right, so I have the letter here, Jordan, and it looks like there's this group, Democracy 21, which claims to be nonpartisan, but their efforts to purge big money from politics seems only to be limited to conservative groups, and they were in direct contact with Lois Lerner.
That's right. They were actually meeting with Lois Lerner at her offices at the IRS, Andrew, and they were doing this. This is something new that we found out, that there were outside nonprofit groups coming to the IRS to tell Lois Lerner who they thought were the bad actors. They all happened to be conservatives. And if they did mention any liberal groups, none of those ever got caught up. So it's as if Lerner was shutting her ears off if they even tried to mention groups that may be pro-Obama. The number one being one that she referred to, and this is, I hope I can get the D.C. director job organizing for America, which is what the Obama campaign became after the campaign.
Let me bring in a former Bush counsel. Where were all these people during George W. Bush's term? Was Lois Lerner and people like this just hiding out? Were they dug in someplace?
Well, yeah. Listen, I mean, it's it's more the same of what you'd expect. They're going to hide out until it's more politically expedient for them to jump into the fray. They found that. The opportunity to go after these conservative groups at a time where they had loyalists in positions of power, and that's what they did. That's not surprising.
Because Lois Lerner, we interviewed James Bob Jr., who was the lead counsel for the Christian Coalition back in the 90s. Apparently, this woman's been conducting herself like this for about 20 years, and she magically just gets bounced from bureaucracy to bureaucracy.
Yeah, I mean, she went from the FEC, where she had this role where she is actually supposed to be regulating campaign activity, to the IRS, where their role is not to be involved. They're not the FEC. They don't set the election laws. They have basics that you have to qualify and meet to be a 501c4, and that's it. It doesn't matter your political bent or what you're doing with that political activity, as long as you meet the standard since the 1950s, which is what the standard was applied. What is most, I think, what most hurts Lois Lerner from this, Andrew, is that now the Department of Justice can't just sit back. Now they've got this delivered to them, and there's more than we got to see. Obviously, some of this is actually
it's a 14-page letter. I mean, there's a lot of emails and documents in here.
Yeah, along with the 14-page letter, there's an 80-page, with all the emails on it. Now they're going to see all of that because some of it's got taxpayer information. Some of the groups, obviously, like Karl Rove's group, like Crossroads, who were not coming up as much in the earlier discussions. Now it's like she was just stuck on making sure that she actually wanted to have them denied status and get them audited, two things which violate the IRS rules. So this is something different. It's unique. And I'm actually excited for what the House did here, because it's not just the same old passing it along. They actually made the case, and they did it as much as they can. This committee, it's different than the contempt vote tomorrow. And again, I mean, it's pretty tough for the Department of Justice to say, okay, still no wrongdoing.
Chris, I feel like somebody's being protected here. I mean, you were a counsel to President Bush. I mean, not that and I know all the accusations against Bush and Cheney, but why would the Attorney General take a pass on this? They had an off-the-record meeting with her. They have to know what she knows. We have this direct contact with these organizations. I'm not saying that Barack Obama found her out and ordered her to do this, But it sounds like maybe someone like a Valerie Jarrett took a meeting with someone like Lois Lerner, knowing her reputation from the 90s. This seems like this goes back to the White House.
Well, she's done a lot of heavy lifting for this administration, so that's one. I think she'll get a pass from this. Listen, this is a culture of corruption there. Two, listen, we don't know what she said to the Department of Justice. She had a short interview, informal interview with the DOJ, and of course the person running that investigation is herself entrenched in the Obama administration, a big-time supporter. So, listen, it's this whole backdrop, this atmospherics about this DOJ investigation suggests that it's really going to go nowhere. And now they're getting a referral of criminal charges from the Ways and Means if it gets approved by the full House, and query whether or not this Department of Justice has the wherewithal or intestinal fortitude to move forward on it. It's a bad week to be Lois Lerner, to be sure. She's got the House Oversight and Government Reform is also taking a vote on contempt. There may be some, something that happens there, gets a full House support. But, where this all goes, we don't know. I don't think we can expect the Department of Justice to do anything different. This is good for Jordan's cases that he's brought against the IRS for these targeting. But I don't know much else what's going to happen to this, and I don't think Lois Lerner is necessarily going to feel a pinch right off the bat. Now, DOJ could say, listen, we're doing our investigation. We're going to let it ride out. We've got our own information. We appreciate what you've given us. And it's a confidential investment. We're going to keep it secret, and we're going to continue to do it. We're not going to comment on it for as long as it's going on. They could simply do that and then find out that it all ends.
If Eric Holder, Jordan, refuses to go any further, and there is clear evidence, it feels like if the Republicans take the Senate in November, they have to threaten him with impeachment. We're not talking about impeaching the president. No. We're saying that the Department of Justice is led by somebody who is not willing to do the job.
Yeah, and he said he may go. So would it change under a different attorney general who's not as closely partisanly allied with President Obama because he's got to be confirmed or he or she? Yeah. So that's going to be someone who could be unique. So all of this is important in building a case. Will it happen tomorrow? No, I doubt that. I agree that, expecting Eric Holder to now open a new criminal investigation, though he still says that there is an ongoing criminal investigation. I think what the House did here was they called a bluff. They said, okay, here's our investigation. Here you go. Instead of holding it and continuing to have hearings where she doesn't show up, they're moving past that. They've done what they can do, and it does help our civil case. With these kind of allegations in here, there are a lot of constitutional violations that would be violating civil law. So this is why Lois Lerner's attorney, we know, as of right now while we're speaking, she's trying to cut a deal. She doesn't want to be held in contempt of Congress. She's not like Eric Holder. She doesn't have that kind of power where she could be arrested if she turns up on Capitol Hill again. So I think you've got Democrats trying to make deals. You've got the potential that ultimately what we want is for Lois Lerner to tell the truth here. And we may, by this kind of pressure, get there because she is going to be feeling this more than someone like Eric Holder did when he was held in contempt or another House committee. She doesn't have that kind of power.
Real quick to wrap this up, Chris, I don't think she's Gordon Liddy. So if it gets too hot, she's going to say, I'm not going down for you guys. This isn't worth it to me.
She may very well do that. Listen, she doesn't strike me as a bold soldier. I think she's a coward, first and foremost, because she's used her position against people that don't have that kind of authority, and she's used it against political opponents. So I think she's going to cut a deal or try to cut a deal. She'd be smart to do that. Bottom line is they need to press her for information. She was absolutely at the epicenter of this. Her department ran this. They orchestrated it. And if she doesn't answer the questions, I'm not sure anybody can. So everything, in my view, that is critical to Jordan's case and this whole issue coming out is in her head, and she needs to be. Now, should they offer her immunity? Absolutely not.
I don't think they should offer.
They've got to find a way to
depends unless it goes to the White House. I got to leave it there, guys. Jordan, Chris, thank you so much for your time today.